So Real Madrid are looking into the midfielder transfer market. And who are they looking into? Well, apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano, there is a full list of midfielders that they are looking into. But one of the main players they are looking into is Angelo Stiller. So I bet you probably wondering, who the hell is Angelo Stiller? Why do I have to care about him? Where does he play? We are going to discuss that in this video. So Angelo Stiller, he plays for Stuttgart. He is 24 years of age. He's a central midfielder. And, in my opinion, he's going to be a big time player for Real Madrid if he signs for Real Madrid. And why do I say this? What makes me so confident in believing in this player? And the number one reason is Toni Kroos recommended this player. And listen, if Toni Kroos recommends you, then you're a big deal. I've said this in previous videos. Toni Kroos is a mastermind. A full-blown mastermind. One of the greatest deep-lying playmakers you will ever see. Straight up. And ever since he left Real Madrid, we still couldn't replace him. And that's not something you can fully blame Real Madrid for, because who on the market is even close to Kroos? Who offers that same type of things? There isn't many. Matter of fact, I can count on 3 fingers who are players that can even come close to Toni Kroos. And this player, Angelo Stiller, reminds me of Kroos. Now listen, he's not like Kroos. He reminds me of him. He can offer the same things, that deep line playmaking, that holding onto the ball, the controlling of games. Stiller is not on that level. I would say he's quite average, and that is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. He's average at the moment. But I think once he joins Real Madrid, he is going to become a monster in our midfield. Because look at these clips of Angelo Stiller. He's not unbelievably impressive. Matter of fact, his work gets unnoticed. Fully unnoticed. Matter of fact, I watched Real Madrid against Stuttgart last year, in which Stiller played. But if I'm being honest, I can't remember a single thing that Stiller did in that match. You might think that's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. I remember with Toni Kroos. Kroos was one of those players that you wouldn't even remember what he did in the match. But once you look back at what he did in the match, you realize why this guy is so important. And the reason why is obviously we are all people who look at the glitz and the glamour, the fantastic football, the skill moves, the goals. And that is not something you every time going to see from Toni Kroos. No Angelo Stiller. And when I look at Angelo Stiller, he reminds me also of a Barcelona player. He reminds me of Pedri. Now listen, you know this might sound crazy to you guys, because yes, Pedri is better. Pedri, he spins, he does it better in my opinion. He's smooth with the ball, and that's something that Stiller doesn't have. Stiller is slower, almost as slow as Kroos, and Stiller is a player who can still improve. Stiller is the type of player who gets on the ball, but he gets the ball in deep areas of the pitch and he playmakes from there. He will put in a beautiful cross. He will put in a Toni Kroos-like pass. He's not really a player that you're going to see in the box. He's not that type of player. He is always outside of the box. He will drop into defense to carry the ball around there. And that is something that Real Madrid desperately need. Desperately. Tchouameni isn't that for us. Camavinga isn't that. We don't have a defensive midfielder that can replicate what Angelo Stiller does on the pitch. And currently, there are many reports on Nico Paz being the midfield signing. But I've also heard of reports that even if Real Madrid sign Nico Paz, they're still gonna go for Angelo Stiller. And this is logical. It makes the most sense. Nico Paz is more of an attacking player, and he doesn't really help us when it comes to being that deep-lying playmaker, because he's not that. He never has been. And you wanna know another reason why I fully trust the signing of this player? Is that look at Real Madrid's track record with Bundesliga signings. It's a good amount of players that performed. We can look at David Alaba. Yes, right now, obviously, he's not having a good time. He just came from ACL injury. But look at his stint at Real Madrid. The man performed. Look at Toni Kroos. The man performed. We can ignore Luka Jovic. Listen, no hate to Jovic. He was always a good player, but he didn't have a great time at Real Madrid. Maybe that is the one exception of a Bundesliga player that didn't perform for Real Madrid. But otherwise, I'm excited at the prospect of this player joining the club. And you know what's crazy? I know what you're thinking. You were thinking, he's just gonna sit on the bench. He will be a replacement that we have on the bench, and he will come on in the 60th minute, play a few minutes. And I would agree, but I would also heavily disagree. And why do I disagree? It's because I think this guy has a high ceiling, a very high ceiling that I don't think many of you guys can see, because he's 24. And you know, with how people look at football, they look at if you're in your 24s, 25s, it's practically over for you. But there have actually been many footballers who have only reached their primes in their later years of football. And I'm gonna make a very big prediction, which I know many of you guys might disagree with this. I think Angelo still has a massive ceiling, and I think he can become a starter for Real Madrid sooner than you think. Because let's be honest, who a few years ago would have said Rodri could win a Ballon d'Or? Matter of fact, one of our greatest midfielders ever, Luka Modric, he came into Real Madrid in 2013. How old was he in 2013? He was 27. 27! Guys, this is 27. And Luka Modric, when he came to Real Madrid, yes, his first season wasn't spectacular, but then over the years proved everyone wrong, became one of the greatest and most successful players in the club's history. And call me a fool, tell me I'm stupid, but I think Stiller could replicate that. Listen, I know I can be heavily wrong on this. He could just be a bench player and get sold next season. But call me crazy, I think he can replicate that type of success. And you know what makes me think this guy is actually a big talent? Is that I heard last year when Hansi Flick came in as manager for Barcelona, Angelo Stiller was a target for them. That's actually how I found out about him. And therefore, now that I see Real Madrid interested in him, I think it's an interesting thing. And apparently it's worth 40 to 50 million euros. And listen, that is cheap. That is cheap in today's market. Take the opportunity, because I know this club is stingy. They don't like to spend big. They signed Trent Alexander-Arnold for 10 million euros. Dean Housen came in for 50 million euros. Alvaro Carreras came in for 50 million euros. And if we sign Angelo Stiller, that could be 30 million or 40 million. If we even bring Nico Paz in, that is gonna be 9 million euros. But still is a profile we need, and I won't be surprised if he becomes a starter under Xabi Alonso. And what makes this so believable to me is we saw Dani Ceballos become a starter. Like, who saw that coming? Dani Ceballos is also a deep-lying playmaker. Like, to me, this team desperately shows that it needs a Toni Kroos replacement. And you know, I saw some Madrid fans clown the guy for his appearance, and if I'm being honest, that is just weird. Don't partake in it. If you watch this channel, do not partake in that stuff. And in the comment section, I don't want to see you guys mention the guy's looks, because it's all about the talent. It's not about the looks. But if you enjoyed the video, tell me there in the comment section, would you be excited at the prospect of Angelo Stiller joining the team? But if you enjoyed, smash like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Peace out.